Perak Yud Bet Mishnah Vav on Shabbat. We're in the last Mishnah in the 12th chapter of Shabbat, and the last Mishnah in this series that deals with Ktiva, writing. So we've learned that in order to be Chayav, Din D'Oraita, you have to write two otiyot. You have to write two letters. One letter, we're not Mechayev, but except according to specific opinions. But you have to write two letters, they have to be sensible, not sensible, whatever. So the Mishnah says the following: what if Hakotev Shte Otiyot B'Shte He'elemot? Remember we learned that this concept of He'elam is a halachic awareness, or a lack of awareness. So in order to be chayav, a korban, in order to violate a din d'oraita and have to bring a korban and a sacrifice in the Beit HaMikdash, what I need to do is I have to do the thing, okay, with a he'elam at one time. I have to write the two letters. When at the same time I don't know it's Shabbat, or I know it's Shabbat and I don't know this is prohibited. That's shogeg. I'm doing it by accident. So I'm like, I take out my pen. I'm like, I want to write my shopping list, and I start writing the shopping list, and I write, groceries, and I'm like, what? Shabbat. I forgot that it's Shabbat this morning. Happens to all of us. Okay, that's he'elam echad. Okay, but what happens though? The Mishnah says, if I start writing and I write groceries and I write G, and I'm like G, I write the G, and I'm like, it's Shabbat. I forgot, and now I remember it's Shabbat, and so I didn't do the whole malacha. I only wrote one letter. Where are we? Here we go. I only wrote one letter. So I didn't do the whole malacha. I did half a malacha. And then I remember it's Shabbat. I didn't violate the d'oraita. It's asur d'rabbanan. I didn't violate the d'oraita. But then I'm like walking around and doing whatever, and then I see the list, and I put down the pen, I see the list, and I'm like, groceries. And I write the R, and I grr. Okay, and I go, oh my God, I forgot it's Shabbat again. That's exactly what you did. Shte otiyot b'shte he'elemot, meaning I wrote, la'achar shekatav ot echat b'shogeg. He wrote one letter b'shogeg. No da lo she'ava. I remember that that's asur, that I can't do that. Then v'chazar v'ne'elam mimenu, I forgot again. B'shagag v'katav ot shniya b'tzidan. I wrote the second letter next to it. Achat shacharit v'achat ben arbaim. It's not even like right next to each other. Remember, I put the thing down, and then later on in the afternoon, like, groceries, I forgot. And then I start to write again. So it's a machloket. Rabbi Gamliel mechayev v'chachamim potrim. Rabbi Gamliel says in that case you're obligated to bring a korban. That is a violation of the d'oraita. V'chachamim potrim. Chachamim say you're patur. Just an interesting case. In this case, it's shtei elamot. There's an awareness of Shabbat and the Isur in between. So in this case, like I always ask myself when I see a Mishnah like this, which opinion do I think is more obvious and which do I think is interesting? I learned that terminology from Rav Aaron Lichtenstein when I had the merit of studying in Grus Kollel under him. So Rav Aaron would always ask, which position is obvious and which position is interesting? So I'm not really sure which one is Rabbi Gamliel obvious and the Chachamim interesting, or the Chachamim obvious that you're only chayav if it's a he'elam, one conjoined, one unique lack of awareness. So let's look at what the nature of the machloket is. Rabbi Gamliel chayav, Rabbi Gamliel obligates, the Bartidara says, this avar en yediyah lechatzi shiur. You can't have something called the knowledge and awareness of chatzi shiur, lechalek, to divide, shelo yitztarev imo chatzi ha'acher. You can't have an awareness of half a thing. It's like, I violated this. You didn't violate the issue because you didn't do it. So therefore, your awareness afterwards can't be half. So therefore, the awareness in the middle isn't enough to break up the two chatzi shiurim, and therefore the yediyah itself is almost as if it didn't happen. And then I ended up writing two letters together because my awareness, I didn't say, you're not allowed to do that because you're not allowed to write. It's not an issue to write one letter. So yediyah is not a diyah. The chachamim potrim, the savrei, they hold, hayidiyah bein shnei chatzei shiur, the awareness between the two half shiurim, michaleket b'neihem, it divides between them. V'lo na'asa ki'ilu v'aya shnei chatzei shiur be'elam echad. And it's not as if you have two half shiurim in one he'elam. If you'd ask me, Rabbi Gamliel is interesting here, now that I think about it. Because Rabbi Gamliel says, the knowledge is not enough to split the two, to split the two actions, because you didn't technically do an action, you did half an action. The Chachamim say, the knowledge technically is an awareness. Now, you had an awareness in between. Those are two elamot, you can't combine them. It seems like Rabbi Gamliel is much more technical, whereas Chachamim are much more, I would say, broad-minded in their p'tur. In the end, you had an awareness in between, shtei elamot, you're not chayav. We'll stop here. If you have any comments or questions, as always, email me at arspoter@gmail.com. We'll dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.